Yeah. Welcome back, everybody. This is Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. We are your host, Platinum Producers, Arkatech Beatz. My name is Jugrnaut.
My name is Mike Trauma D.
And collectively, we are the production team of Arkatech Beatz.
Yep.
If you do not know about us, we have basically produced gold and platinum records for all of your most iconic artists in hip-hop over the last 20 years. If you're first time to the channel, thanks for checking us out.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome to the channel. We'll do some housekeeping. Make sure that you subscribe, hit those notification bells. And if you like our content, the best thing you could do is share with a friend, right?
Yep.
Let's get into this. Our goal right now is really to just get folks to know different things about the music industry. We tackle different topics from week to week. If there's something that you want us to talk about, hit it in the comments, right? So let's get into this, right? One of the first things that we want to rock into is some people were asking us about our producer setups and what's an ideal producer setup for maybe like a starting or a new producer, or even a new artist, because the equipment may be kind of the same in some cases.
Remember back in the days, remember it was like everything was all hardware. So
oh yeah, like it was like when we say all hardware, like you had everything had to be a physical unit. Your mixer, a physical unit. Your recording device is a physical unit. It's just it was nuts. Keyboards, sound modules, you name it.
And it was expensive. The entry level for producer back in the days was expensive. Because you needed if you needed a drum machine, a drum machine would cost you $35 to $5,000.
I think when we were starting, I think we were upwards of $15,000.
Yeah.
First getting in, and we're talking about the hardware. And then remember, we had two remote setups. We had one main setup, but then you had your satellite setup, and then so now we had to do it in duplicate.
Right.
But let's talk about some of the things that folks need to use right now in today's age.
Well, nowadays, it's definitely much cheaper to have a producer setup. Of course, obviously, you need a computer. But you need a computer that could run. Will have enough, memory. Memory storage to be able to have these applications and software on the computer. I like to just have it out as like a terabyte worth of memory on a computer. It could be an Apple or it could be just a Windows-based computer. You obviously need a keyboard or a controller, to trigger sounds. You need the software. We use machine software. We use Fruity Loops. There's Ableton Live. There's Pro Tools. There's a lot of programs that can be used. It just comes down to what you feel comfortable with it. What has a easier maybe learning curve, and what works for you. What's easier to understand, because that's going to be key in being able to creating these beats and creating these songs and in a quick fashion, because you want a high turnaround rate. You're going to need a good set of studio monitors to listen to.
And when we say monitors, we mean like in the back, like you see speakers.
Like speakers.
So for folks who say, we refer to those as reference monitors or studio monitors for those who may be not so used to the jargon.
Right. So the studio monitors specifically are like flat response, meaning that there's no added hype, there's no added extra. A lot of like regular speakers out the factory, they make them with extra things to make the music sound better. It's EQ'd already, and you don't want that when you're in a studio setting. You want a honest, straight feedback of what the recording actually sounds like, so that you can actually do your mixes and EQing. And the theory is, if you can mix and make a record sound good on these type of monitors, they'll sound good anywhere pretty much. So you need a good set of reference monitors. What else, Jug?
We already said we need a decent computer, right? Monitors. You're going to need a very good what we call audio interface, right?
Right.
And the audio interface will basically be what you'll be able to connect your monitors to, and basically the bridge from your computer to your monitors.
Right.
Some folks might try to use the internal sound card, but the internal sound card on a lot of computers won't produce the high fidelity that you'll need to be able to hear in order for you to be able to create music that's going to be commercially sound. So a lot of folks, they will opt to get a audio interface. Also, the audio interface is for you to be able to plug in instruments or external microphones, etc., to get the signal into your computer.
Right.
So that's very important to get an interface. On this particular talk, we won't recommend any particular brands. We just say folks to really just kind of do your research in terms of which ones that you get good ratings on Amazon, etc., that you can use. What's the other thing? Well, actually, no. Let me reverse course on that, because we do have an equipment list that we do carry. That I'll probably put that inside of the description of the video. So there is an equipment list of some stuff that we use that I've compiled. So it's not a endorsement by any stretch, but it's just stuff that we use. So between the computer, between the studio reference monitors or speakers, talking about the audio interface, most folks will opt to get a MIDI playback device. Either that would be either a drum machine keyboard controller, a keyboard controller with pads, and probably the last thing would be a microphone.
Right.
If you're a person that wants to do audio references, etc., some people like to kind of beatbox their music in and then build from there. I think Ableton has features that you can beatbox stuff into and turn that into MIDI, and that tends to be a new feature that folks are using a lot more these days. But some reference headphones maybe.
Right.
But that seems to be the setup of today, which is basically computer, monitors, interface, microphone, keyboard controller or MIDI controller,
and just software.
And software, right? And the software of your choice. And if you have those things, we're talking about what? Depending on the type of computer you buy, right? You can probably get something on a low end, maybe $500, right?
Right.
That would have the capacity to run something like an FL Studio or something like a machine. If you buy a small controller and those other things and an interface, I mean, you probably can get up and running anywhere between $1,500 and $2,000.
Right. Yeah.
That's like dramatically different from what it was when we started, right?
Right.
When we started, we were talking about 10 times that amount.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
Right, because if you wanted an MPC 3000, you were going to pay $3,000.
Right.
Right. You were going to pay it. I remember paying close to $4,000 for ASR 88. Right.
If you don't know what that is, that was
old school sampler keyboard. It was a weighted keyboard sampler. So between that and paying another $3,500 for an 8-track recorder, digital recorder, so you were already in the tank for close to $10,000. Then the monitors they weren't amplified. You had to buy a separate amp. You had to buy a separate mixing board.
So that it wasn't powered amps like they have now.
No. Like now studio monitors have the amps on the actual
monitors,
on the monitor, so you don't have to worry about that. So all of those things, and we're not even going to get into, you bought a keyboard, but it had no sounds. Because the ASR did come with sounds, but you had to load them up individually, and it was more of a sampler, and then you had to buy individual racks, and we're talking about like rolling racks, Yamaha racks, rack mount, instruments, and those would range anywhere from between $3 to $500. Sometimes you could pay upwards of $1,000. And then the ones that were expandable, remember you had to buy cards for those. So it was like, it was just where we are now with VSTs and virtual instruments. And listen,
while we're on the topic, what's your view on VSTs versus standard the old school actual modules, as well as going to stores for samples versus online, finding stuff online for sampling?
Wow. I think in some cases, you had some really, really, really good sound patches that were coming from some keyboards. Roland used to make some really good ones. Yamaha used to make some really good ones.
Right.
These things sounded like the real instruments. Not to say that the new ones don't. I think if you pay more for certain VSTs, you're going to get better sounds.
Right.
It's just that the range of VSTs, you got low level VSTs like really cheap, and then you got the high level ones that now are going to give you, much, much, much better sample quality, etc. I don't miss it, because remember, you used to have to go back in and you had to remember the individual settings,
right?
Or if you didn't save the presets, you'd have to load that up, and then you'd have to, so your mixes would always sound different every time you went back and you reloaded it up. If you didn't remember the exact levels of everything,
right,
it would change the way that it sounds. So do I like VSTs where we are? I think it's the best evolution. For certain things, you might want to go back to hardware, but me personally, I like the reduced setup.
Right.
I don't like to have, you remember the goal used to be to fill up your racks with as many pieces of hardware. So when you turn down the lights in the studio, everything would just illuminate. You'd be like, oh shit, I'm like in the, like all of that stuff is like, I don't care about it anymore.
I just watched an interview with T-Pain, and he mentioned how, was it Timbaland still had racks, and he's like, yo dude, like why you got all this clutter, man? You got VSTs, you can just put it's all in your computer, you don't have to do all this. And if it just goes to show that, when sometimes you just love what you love, and
I give it to Tim though, because he's always been so advanced. He's always been advanced. So he would have had all of that shit, and we never would have known. We'd have thought he was still using VSTs. Right? We wouldn't have known that he was doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like the music hasn't degraded.
Right.
So that you would feel like, oh, he using racks. We don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that's a testament to his genius.
So what do you feel about these, I remember we used to go to the record store and, dig for records. Now you have all of these online platforms where you can just sign up and, get your samples from there. It was like...
I love it, man. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, I really do. You remember the task it was trying to find the records that fit the beats that we were trying to make. Right? And it was like a I'm going to use colorful language. It was like a motherfucking treasure hunt, man. Like the shit was crazy. Like we're talking about like dusty record stores, thrift stores, and sometimes people's trash. You throwing those records out? You know, like let me get those records. What you throwing those records out for? Let me get those. And then the task of having to go through each record, each song, record player, clean it off, wipe off the record, making sure they don't have too much, you know, crackle and pop in that shit, you know, and like, you know, just going from track to track to track and listening to, sometimes you just listen to the beginning, sometimes listening to the end, listening to the whole thing. And you're just trying to find that little 3-second phrase or 4-second phrase that's going to change your life. And, you know, people love the hunt of it, but you couldn't mass produce it. You couldn't keep up. You couldn't keep up with the demand of what needs to be done now, because it was a process of really trying to find something that was dope.
Right.
And now once you found it, the equipment was limited. You know, time stretch was, it took forever. You know, you couldn't pitch and key and all that shit. You know, everything just was like you had to really know how to manipulate your stuff in order to, you know, keep your shit in tune and making sure your shit wasn't out of tune and couldn't be pitched a certain way where people couldn't, you know, it was a real task, man. So stuff like Splice and these other places, like, hey man, like it gets right to the loop. Exactly.
It gets right to it.
right to
what
the portion of it that you can use and need.
Yeah.
And then it kind of helps to eliminate a lot of the other stuff.
It's a time saver. It's really a time saver. And as you're a person with a lot of responsibilities and you're wearing a lot of different hats, and there's so much things you have to do as far as running a company and marketing, content making, promotion, creating beats, the list just goes on. It's like you want to be able to just utilize your time, you know, in a certain way that you can maximize everything that you get. So to be able to go into your computer, log in here, and, you know, pretty much you're digging the samples online, you know, from your bedroom. I mean, and you know what's dope, man? I find myself digging for samples on my phone, like just when I have a moment, and actually just saving them, and then being able to come up with ideas, like rough ideas, just on the fly, and then saving it. And later, when I'm at a studio or wherever I'm at and I'm ready to work, I could just jump right in. You know, I'm like, okay, I remember that loop. I remember what I was starting out. Let me import it, and I could get right to work. I don't have to even start on a blank slate anymore. So that's really like dope. You know what technology has done as far as for the music for creatives.
It's the best. It's the best thing, man. Like whoever, and then the other part of it is the royalty-free aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
No sample clearances.
Right.
You know, no separation of your, like when you talk about like the length of our careers, right? You know, you wouldn't have the ownership of so much of the master.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like now it's like, okay, you at minimum, if you're working with an artist, you're guaranteed your 50%.
Right.
When you're sampling, you don't know what the fucking that percentage going to be.
You don't even know. You don't even know if the sample gonna clear.
Right.
Like forget about it.
You don't know. So it creates this thing where it's like, you know, for me it created a level of peace. Right. Mm-hmm. You're gonna say, what do you mean by that? Because we had gone through a stretch where some of the hottest records that we were putting together couldn't get cleared.
Right.
And that hurt.
Yep.
That hurt. And I'm telling these folks out there who are watching, I'm looking right in the camera right now. Listen, nothing is worse than having a banger that does not clear. Nothing worse than having a banger with an A-list tier artist that does not clear and does not see the light of day. Like,
Man.
Like, no worse feeling
And you just sitting on it. Can't do nothing with it.
Can't do nothing with it. Stuck with it. You might be able to do mixtape with it, but if you do a mixtape with it, you can still get a little backlash if you ain't careful. Because remember, you did try to clear it.
Right.
So they got notified. So once you try to clear it, they know they on the radar to making sure that you're not using it unauthorized. So there's nothing worse than that. So people have to be, if you're not playing out your own instruments and you're not playing out your own samples, you got to thank God for these guys that's creating these loops. If you're a sampler, if you're a person that's into sampling, and you got to thank God for these folks that are doing the royalty-free loops and stuff, because some of these artists were charging exorbitant fees, and they were going crazy and taking all of the song for us, taking all of the percentages of the song, when their record was dormant and wasn't earning shit. Right?
Wow.
You had an obscure record. You didn't have Spotify and all of this shit where people can find old music.
Right.
So your shit was already out of circulation. Your records are no longer in stores. They're in people's houses collecting dust. You're not earning shit. Here we go now. We take your record now. We pump life into it. We put this A-list artist on this shit. Right? And then, folks get greedy and say they want to take all of the song or 75% of the song. Like you wasn't earning shit on that record.
Right.
You wasn't earning anything. So I if I have to compare the two worlds, and it's ill because we've been able to live through both eras. The eras of the dig in. We watched it switch over from samples to all play out music. Right, like it was all played out. Some of it wasn't as elaborate as it is now. I think now you see more musicality coming back in. That's
true. Yeah, a lot of melodies.
Yeah, really dope melodies. Whereas before it wasn't like that. It was really like single finger keyboard playing type shit. And now with guys offering sample packs and stuff that's more elaborate, and it's like, oh, okay, this is having more of a vibe. And then the sample packs sometimes that have the different genres, which I think is also dope.
Yeah.
So that's like you can kind of pick a lane, and
it's dope because the sample packs is like you can like kind of zone in on certain aspects. Like you could get sample pack where it's just chords, or just strings. There's a certain areas, and then you could just really just take certain parts, flip it around, get another sample pack, do the same thing, combine it. Like it really allows you to. And you know what? I remember when RZA, when he would produce, he could take a sample from two different sources and slap them together. And you'd be like, what is this? So it's almost like a mix and match thing you can do as far with these different packs. You can mix and match, take these drums, take this, take that, and then the MIDI component is so dope because you could just take the MIDI and add your own drums that you have off of a MIDI pattern that's previously there. And EQ it the way you want to EQ it, and add on a little extra. Man, it's what technology has done in the music is just like wow.
I don't think people really understand our exposure to a lot of this shit. And when I say we've been able to be I've been in we've been in the studio with RZA. Right. We've had I've had the distinct pleasure of him, rapping on our music. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like what I'm saying, and to see that process, I've had the distinct pleasure of watching some of the hitmen, lay down their music, right? Because at the time we were like deeply ingrained in the Wu-Tang situation with Rick Warren, and these guys were coming in,
right?
And we were able to see the process. Whether it be Angeletti or, and these are different type of guys, you know what I'm saying? Or being in the studio with maybe say an Alchemist when we were dealing with Prodigy and stuff like that, and being able to see the process of what he's doing and Havoc,
Oh yeah.
Like, so it's different. Like it's different when you kind of see the process of different different producers, and then seeing what it's evolved into now.
Right.
And it's like, okay, you've been around some of the best that's ever done it, and then then you say, okay, we hold our own. Right. I'm not gonna say that we ain't no slouches. We hold our own in what we do. And the projects that we've been on, we've shared the stage with everybody, right? Because if you think about a Capital Punishment, it's the Grammy nominated album, an album that was surrounded by a plethora of great producers at the time. Right?
Yeah.
And then when we went on to Leatherface, when we went on to Ray, when we went on to Nas, and everybody. All the projects that we were on, Jadakiss, like we're surrounded by great producers, and I think that kind of makes the projects more cohesive.
Right.
But yeah, I would never want to go back to the way that it was.
As far as digging from music.
No, I would never want to do that. Like something told me the other day to start kind of digging through some, YouTube archives, right? Which is even dope in itself, that I can go look for my favorite artists on YouTube now. That I used to sample from. Like, go look for their catalog on YouTube. That shit is just a whole, like, shout out to the people who go back and take the old vinyl and digitize it and throw it on YouTube. Like,
wow.
That's shout out to you motherfuckers, because
that's a lot of freaking
it's a lot of work. a lot of work, like I have a hard time going through the MPC and pulling out old beats to put those into a new system, because I need to get them off some of these hard disks, because these hard disks now are starting to fail.
So you new producers out here, you have no idea how good you got it right now.
Oh my gosh, man! Like oh my gosh, like, and there's really no excuse, but that's why you see them pumping it out so fast, man. So switching gears a little bit, I wanted us to talk about, like, because we were talking about publishing, we're talking about samples, we're talking about clearances. It kind of segues into. People were asking about songwriter co-publishing and administration deals. And I think we've had the unique perspective to kind of have had, most of those, right? If not,
yeah.
Like currently we're in an admin situation, or dealing with like Song Trust, and then even with our label situation, they offer that as far as like administration and stuff like that, and it's up to you if you want to accept the publishing administration from the distributor. Some folks would lobby against it, only because it's kind of too close to everything. But when we talk about like a songwriter deal. I guess we may want to break it down on what it is first, and then kind of talk about what it isn't.
Well, these deals, like these publishing deals, and there's different kinds of them, I should say. But they're basically loans. They're basically like a loan. You're betting on yourself. You're saying, okay. For example, let's say you're in a situation where you need some money, and this is really the avenue where a lot of producers opt in to get a publishing deal. It's like you have a bunch of records coming out, but you need some money, whether it's you're trying to build up your studio, or you're trying to pay the bills, whatever, and you need some cash right now. So what happens is you get these publishing deals where the publisher will see, okay, you have these records coming out, or it's already out, and it's starting to create some revenue. So they can calculate on an estimate of how much these records the publishing will generate, and it will give you, say, okay, we'll give you this amount of money if you give us X amount % of your publishing. So they will collect the publishing, and you will just get that, and they'll hold on to that, and then they'll pay it out, and then maybe every so often you can go back to them and say, okay, I would like another chunk of money. They'll review everything to see how much money is in the pipeline coming down, and they may say, okay, we could give you this amount of money because we know that we're going to get it back in your publishing. So that's all it is. But here's the trick though. Here's the thing that you may not know. What happens if the publishing is a whole lot higher on their end than the money that they give you? So for example, let's say they say, okay, we're gonna make around $20,000. We're gonna give you 15. And you take the 15,000, you're good. Because it's an estimate. What if it comes in and we made 50,000? What happens then? It's like they gamble on what it is. Now, on the other way around, you come off really good if you pocketed $20,000 and the publishing only came in at 10,000. Now you pocketed more money than actual publishing came in. So it's a gamble on both sides.
It's funny, man, because we in this business there are two mantras. Some folks say get your money up front, right?
Right.
And then there's another mantra where folks say, hey, get it back in, right? And right, the back end, but the back end is the publishing, right? So they'll say that'll come in, but the question is, when will it come in, right? To be quite honest, I don't understand why it takes as long as it takes anymore because of the advent of streaming, right? You can see real time the data within 24 hours, so you already what is made in streaming. You've known, like, everything is connected now with numbers. I don't understand why it takes as long as it takes now to continue to generate the revenue from publishing in the back end, 6 months, a year, But like you said, the advance is to help people live during that time when you're waiting for that money to come.
Right.
If you're not able to, because most songwriters don't necessarily get advances unless unless their producers are really tight with them.
Right.
So sometimes if you have a good relationship with a songwriter and you're as a producer, you sell the record, then you would say, okay, I'm gonna give the songwriter a few dollars, but that's not necessarily how it works. Typically, it's a producer advance. It's not necessarily considered an advance in that situation. But that's a different topic. But when we talk about the songwriter deals, it's like you said, loans against future earnings, and then in some cases you're giving up a portion of your ownership for that loan.
Right.
And like you said too, it's like if the songs earn a lot, then the advance that you may have taken will pale in comparison to what your song is earning and the percentage that you gave away. It's a double-edged sword. You have to, it's unique. It's based on your circumstances. This is where people don't like the music industry, is because it kind of preys on people that need, right? So for example, if you're an artist, that's like, you've dived into your craft and you may not be making a whole lot of money. You may have a job that's not really supporting you or whatever. You're going to be in a situation where you're going to need money to live, or you want to put yourself in a situation where you can continue to produce content without being under the pressure of how am I going to pay my bills? Because and I know, like, once you get into that type of situation where you don't know how you're going to keep the lights on, it's very hard to sit down there and talk about you're going to create some music.
Right.
It's very difficult to do that. So, I think the publishing deals now kind of exploit the fact that that most artists are working artists, or some people would say starving artists, and they offer these advances and stuff like that to help them live during the time of need. In some cases, I think it works, but in cases, if you're a really, really dope songwriter, then it can be a situation. And then depending on if they lock you into a multi-song deal, or you have to deliver X amount of songs at 100%.
Wow.
That becomes, another situation, and then if they start to add on the caliber of releases, it has to be major label. It can't be independent. This, it can't do this. It can't do that. So it can get really, really tricky if not negotiated the right way, or if you don't have the appropriate amount of leverage.
All right.
The admin deals. The admin deals can be good in some cases where you can retain the ownership of your copyright and they're just collecting it at a fee, right? So they don't really have any real ownership in your situation, but they're for the time that they're collecting it, they're going to charge you a fee of anywhere to 10 to 15%. Some may go as high as 20. Don't do that, but but the funny thing about the admin situation is that you still have to submit the information, right? There's no one that's going to do it for you. Like, you still got to send them the song. You still got to send them the writers. You still got to send them, you still got to send them the situation. Now, they may go and they'll register with ASCAP or so forth and so on. In some cases, they may not even do that. You may have to do all the registration, and then you send them the information for them to go collect it. So, the word administration in some cases to me can be a little bit misleading, right? Because even when you're asking them to collect when you're in an admin deal, you still have to send the song information, the split sheets, etc. And in some cases, you still have to register the songs, and then they'll go behind you, and then they'll send a letter to the to ASCAP or BMI and say, "Hey, we're collecting on behalf of them. Send us all of the money, or send us whatever here." So you kind of insert a middleman into your situation where you can get it directly from ASCAP.
So I guess some people would ask, why go through that? Why not do it directly?
So let's take an example for something like Song Trust, right? And we are, just for the sake of transparency, we're partnered with Song Trust as like influencers, quote unquote, brand ambassadors, and I don't want folks to take it as we're trying to sell their particular brand. But what I've found in their situation, which I thought was really good, is that after you've sent them your catalog and they start to collect on the catalog, they're supposed to find the other stuff, right? Which is like the YouTube revenue, this revenue, the micro sync, all of these things, where you would have to sign up for different places to get your money. What they do very successfully in publishing is they make it very, very complex, and they make it so that you don't get you can easily not get all of your income, and then
you talk about the music business in general. I've made it complex.
I want to talk about, I would say, more publishing, because if you think about it, right, ASCAP does one thing. Sound Exchange does another thing. Right. Harry Fox Agency does another thing. Right. So then there are certain geographical restrictions for some of these places. Some places don't collect
the overseas.
And then you have to partner with this network, and you have to make sure you get this, and then you have to make sure you get your royalties in a certain amount of time, because then they turn into black box royalties, which are basically the stuff that's unclaimed that goes to the top tier artists.
So that's the reason why you partner with these different companies, so that they can go out and fight and get everything that's out there.
Right.
You're not going to be able to do it yourself.
You can, but it's going to take more time than you would like it to take. Let's put it that way. And you'd have to be very meticulous, and it depends on how much songs you're putting out. If we're talking about a singular song catalog, okay, you got the time to do that. But when your song catalog gets into the hundreds or the thousands, then what? This gets very difficult to track, 1,000 individual songs.
Right. On different platforms.
Right. And now we're talking about like TikTok and all this extra shit that's coming in,
And then we're not even talking about international and the different forms over there.
Right, and there's different restrictions, and different time frames, different everything. So that's really the advantage of having an administrator. The administrator is so that, okay, you can submit them the song notes, etc., and then it's their job to go and comb the earth, literally, to find the money, and making sure that you get paid what you owe, or as Songtrust aptly says, get paid what you're due, right? Which is there were a lot of micro syncs out there that could have gone uncollected if we hadn't partnered in some cases. And there were YouTube micro syncs, and we're talking about in different regions of the world that you have to put in to make sure that you can collect on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if your music is used throughout a lot of the YouTube sphere, you could be missing out on a whole lot of money. It can be very, very lucrative if you're
life changing.
Listen, there's an article that you sent, right, from the other day. I think it was in Music
Week, yeah.
And it was talking about the CEO or the founder of the hypnosis situation, and he made a very, very, very distinct point about. He said, never in the history of music, he's like, everything is paid for now. He said, you would think that it was free, but if you think about it, you got YouTube subscriptions, you got Spotify subscriptions, you got Apple Music subscriptions. Then if it's a free platform, it's still going to get paid for through advertising.
Right.
So he said now is a time where music is being paid for more than ever in history. Right? It's like, if you want free music, where do you get it from now? Right? Those days are over. You can't, you know what I'm saying? Like,
you can't get music. Yeah. 'Cause, remember back in the days you could record from the radio.
Right.
You could and then you get your music. Wait for your song to come, hit the play and record, and you got it. Right. And you listen to music.
You can't do that anymore. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that anymore. And it was a very, very telling statement that he said. He said, you can't get music for free anymore. Music isn't free anymore. He's like, you're going to pay for it in some form or fashion. You're going to pay for it either through advertising. You're going to listen to these advertising, right? Or you're going to pay for these subscriptions, right?
Right.
And it puts creators and it puts people in the publishing business and this thing, like, you're in the driver's seat. You're supposed to earn more money than ever, but you're saying that's not what's happening. Folks aren't earning more. They're supposed to earn more,
right?
But they're not. And I think a lot of it has to do with the simple fact of, hey, you're not collecting what you do, and then in some cases people are relinquishing ownership through some bad deals, right? So your songwriter percentages is off. You make these early publishing deals. You give away too much of your master recordings, right? Then you're not in the position to get what you do, and you're not in the position to get what will happen with technology in the next 5 to 10 years. Right, because now we're talking about platforms like Audius, who are, they're a streaming platform, but now it's connected with cryptocurrency. Like,
right? Are you positioned? Have you positioned yourself to be able to even reap the rewards for that?
And NFTs. What's going to happen when these companies start taking our songs that you've given away and start minting NFTs that earn resale money? Like, what the fuck are you going to do? Right? Because you're going to be iced out of that revenue stream.
Right.
So now is the time, like, when we talk about, like, songwriter, co-publishing, administration deals. There are pros and cons to it. We would always say, hey, do your research. Make sure you're talking to your attorneys about, the deals. Also depend on the songs, right?
Right.
If you got songs with major artists that's coming out, you might want to hold off on giving that pub away. You might want to find that job to keep you over, to tide you over until that song starts to pop off.
It may have to be oodles and noodles for
I'm trying to tell you,
a few more nights.
Listen, don't be too hasty to sign off your publishing when you got records coming out with major artists. It's silly.
Yeah.
I get it. Like, everybody needs to live, but you got to think about if it's a hit record. Oh my gosh! Like, you would hate that you signed off 25 to 50% of that record. You would hate that, if it's a smash. Like, are you kidding? You know what I'm saying? And then what's also horrible is you can get double dinged. You say, well, what do you mean? Okay, say you produce a record that's dope now, and then 5 years from later, a young boy come and sample it again and make it hit again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you're still iced out, from the previous agreement that you can't collect anything. Like
anniversary albums, all of these different things that just continue to
like I want artists and producers to think when you're dealing with this music business, you have to think in perpetuity. You have to think that it's going to continue to earn you revenue in the future.
Right.
You have to put yourself in a position where you can basically have some control over what happens to your music in the future. Because what's happening, rediscovery. People are going back. They're pulling old records from records that they're pulling old hits and they're reincorporating them again. You see a lot of that happening again, especially if you're talking about like people like Hitmaker, and they're going back. They're pulling out the old hits. And they're reincorporating them into their new songs, and they're sampling them in again. So, I think people really need to make sure that you're on point with your publishing situations, making sure that you're not signing away your situation in songwriter deals. Making sure it makes sense. If they're going to collect it at an admin fee, okay. But you want to try to retain as much ownership as possible if you can.
Yeah.
And just capping off now, right? Just capping off, switching gears. We had a nice week in music.
Oh yeah, Drake, Kanye.
Donda's out. Drake got the certified lover boy with all the pregnant women on the cover.
Which would make some nice NFTs.
Like, hey, you can't make this shit up, But I guess the question is, which album is better in your opinion?
I mean, it's subjective. They're two. Both albums. Got a chance to listen to both albums. With all honesty, I didn't get to finish listening to Drake's album. I think I got about maybe halfway through. But they're two very different projects, and you notice how Kanye's has a lot of artists on his album, has a lot of features, That's something that I noticed off the back, It's like you get the hot young artist who's popping and you incorporate them into your project, and I've seen a lot of that on Kanye's album. So sonically they're different, subject matter is different. Some of Kanye's records felt a little dated to me. Some of the trap records felt a little dated. I don't know. It really just depends the vibe you're in. Drake is always going to deliver but his music to me also sounded the same. You know, it sounded like when as I was listening to the first all the way down to what I did listen to, everything sounded in the same. Nothing jumped out like, oh my goodness, this is a smash. Everything felt like safe. It felt like, okay, this is gonna be dope elevator music. This is gonna be dope. Like
wow, you can't say elevator music.
No, what I mean is
they're gonna come for you.
What I mean is it's safe. Like you could hear it played everywhere. You could play it just where you're home cleaning up. You could play it if you're in your car just kind of like cruising. You could play it. It had like it crossed over more boundaries, I should say. Drake's music versus Kanye. Kanye, you only could play it in certain areas. Drake just felt like he could play it like everywhere. More people would be able to listen to Drake's records.
I find it like, with Drake stuff. I like both albums, right? Mm-hmm. What's resonating to me a little bit more is going to be Drake, because it feels more hip hop to me. But whereas Kanye's seems a little bit more like he's trying to appeal to a different segment of culture, right? It doesn't just seem like it's just going straight for hip hop. You know what I mean? Like when we talk about some of the hard guitars that he's using throughout, and it's just different. You know what I mean? And some of the stuff. I really like the way that Drake has been. He's rapping. I wish people would stop acting like this guy can't rap. This guy could rap, man. And the way that he crafts his songs, the way that he crafts his messages, the way that he is able to express himself in music. I think it's a testament to how intelligent he is. Because it comes across in his music. It comes across as a conversation with himself.
Yeah, right.
That you have the conversation with himself that he's making you privy to, and he's going through the different emotions and the different things that he may be going through in relationships or what he's going through with people, and on different songs it comes through. From a production level, we are producers. We got to talk about it from a production level for both situations. Mm-hmm. From a production level, like you said, they feel safe. Right. Drake's more safe than Kanye's, of course.
Right.
Some of the stuff that Drake chooses to rap on, they're good tracks, right? I'm not saying that they're, but I think we come from an era where the music, album after album, has to elevate.
Right.
Right. And I hate to date ourselves, but let's say we're talking about, say, even a Jay-Z. Mm-hmm. We take a Jay-Z, he got Reasonable Doubt, classic album. Mm-hmm. Then he comes out with the next album, which is, trying to elevate from where he was. Mm-hmm. Or if we're talking about an Illmatic going into when it was written, people would say that Illmatic is the classic, but it was written was the one that catapulted him into superstardom. Mm-hmm. Right. Ready to Die versus, Life After Death. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, these albums got to continue to kind of, especially when you're at the top tier.
Right.
And you have access to everything and everybody.
Right.
Right. So we're expecting. I think what I'm noticing with a lot of artists now, they're shying away from the music that would normally invoke like a different type of emotion, right? Like how you would have, like how we would classify records as bangers. Like, that's a banger, like, you know what I mean? And
right.
That, like,
you're right.
That's not there anymore. It's like no one is trying to get, like, they look like they don't want to battle the beat. So they're picking all this safe production. You know what I mean?
I feel that's what I'm saying. That's why I said the elevator music. That's why I use that term. It just feels safe so that it can be marketed anywhere.
Got it.
And then when it's time to get certain deals and it's time to get certain sponsors, whether it's corporate, like different sponsorships, those records can transition over versus those bangers that we're used to, which could also feel maybe a little bit too hard and too offensive for a lot of different other potential customers and viewers.
And I never viewed it that way. I never viewed it that this kind of music, as we call safe music, that it has more earning potential.
Right.
It doesn't get you critical acclaim, right? but you know, like it doesn't get you this is a classic album, you know, but it gets you to the point where, okay, you can kind of monetize it in different venues and different things. That's the only thing that's absent for me, you know. I think you know, and then Kanye being the type of producer that he is, you know, he was always been able to kind of push the envelope, and I didn't really see that on this. I felt this album was more like, okay, a little too much of a mixture of Yeezus, along with the Jesus is King, a little bit of that, and then you know, we can't get you. We're not asking him to do College Dropout. We know he's not there anymore. We know he's not asking him to do that.
It feels like, for example, like Drake is, like you said, he's rapping, like he's putting thought into the word play, and he's putting thought into the subject matter. And it feels like, for example, for Kanye, it's more like an artsy thing. Like, I'm just gonna throw something out there, and you know, it'll stick, you know. And even from the first record that you hear on the Kanye album, where it's chanting Donda, it's like really, like that's what you're gonna give us. A lot of people were kind of like, come on, like give us a song. You're just gonna do that and label it art, you know. It's like
it gets to the point where it's a little bit like, you know, it's a little self-centered, right? Like what else are you going to say about it? You know, it's his mom. You know, for people that have lost their parents, you know, they'll understand the issue behind it, or they'll understand the thought behind it. You know, he has that app now that's coming through these guys. The developer that was making stuff, you know, like being able to manipulate things with his hand. He made the app. I think it's called Sound Labs, or I don't want to misspeak it, but now it's like the stem manipulator. So you can basically manipulate the stems.
Different parts of the music.
Different parts of the music, real time, to kind of cater it to what you want it to sound like, which I think is genius too. You know what I'm saying? Like a different type of manipulation of the music, or basically an accessory to the music.
Okay, that's dope. Right.
So now Kanye has, I think the hard devices are coming out. So there's an app, but there's also a real device for it that they say that may retail at $200 a piece.
Wow.
Right. So that's a whole nother, you know, like this guy is trying to make basically an iPod. Like, you know, he's really trying to Steve Jobs it, like, you know, trying to create something to go along with your music experience.
Well, I mean, he's done a great job with the merchandising. You know, they said that he made a lot of money from with the anticipation of this album because of the stadiums. The merch was just you know, out of here.
It's the best thing that he could have ever done. And then I had sent you something where they were talking about him. The venues were ways for him to they were being utilized as feedback,
like instant feedback,
right? And was being able to not only build the anticipation, but also to see what resonated with the crowd, and then go back and fix it.
Yeah, that was interesting.
That's a very, very, very dope concept. to play an album, like, you know, to play an album for people with exclusive access, let them pay for exclusive access, right? Through merch, whatever. So you not only you're paying for exclusive access, but now you're getting real time feedback. And then you're able, that's what people do in like the tech world. Like, you know, they launch something and then they fix it. So he's launched it and it's like, it's not, you know, it's not really out yet.
It's the beta version.
Right. It's not really out yet, but okay, this song is jumping. All right, well, this verse the crowd didn't react good to this verse. I pull you off, put somebody else on. And it's real smart if you think about it. And with that amount of feedback, and with that amount of testing, and with that amount of lead time, I felt that the album would have been better.
Do you think that could also be looked at as being insecure with the product that you have? That you're not sure, you don't know?
Yeah, because you have to understand that I think that you can lose touch. You know, you can lose touch. Like you can lose touch. I think everybody goes to that as a creator. You know, you go, is this it? Is this good enough?
Right.
You know, how are people going to react to this shit? Like, you know, I think those things are valid questions or valid issues that artists go through. You know, anytime you're putting out music, you ask yourself, hey, are motherfuckers going to like this shit? Like, I've been sitting with this bitch for a month and, you know, trying to get this one track to sound a certain way, and then it comes out and it flops. You'd be like, fuck, what happened?
Right.
You know, it's like, you know, if there's a way for you to kind of get it to be listened to, I think if Drake would have did that, shit, we'd have had a different album. Because to me, he seems like he's a little bit more in tune with what's going on and a little bit more in tune with, you know, creating in that type of fashion. If he did that,
right.
I would just like to see a little bit, like you said, the bangers from him because he can really rap. I would really like to see more of a, you know, him being talked about better with a critically acclaimed album. You know, don't get me wrong, he does the numbers, you know, but, you know, where's his Illmatic?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, where's his Ready to Die? He's probably the best to ever do it. You know what I'm saying? Where's his College Dropout? He need that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he needs it. Like, I understand that you have your fan base and you cater to what it is, and you're gonna do them big numbers. But where is that classic album? You know what I'm saying? That.
Yeah, just, I mean, you know, that's that age-old thing, you know, just because you do great numbers doesn't necessarily mean that you got a classic under the belt, you know, that you got a, you know, a certified, you know, all hands down. This is it, you know.
This is it. We need it. Like, I need him to have his Get Rich or Die Trying, or, you know, not to say it's the same type of music, but I need him to have that album that is like
that fulfills all of those areas.
Yeah,
it has the bangers, it has the singles, it has the deep introspective album cut, it has the dope, maybe even the skits or whatever to really bring it on home. It has all these elements to making a full, complete product that satisfies everybody.
And I feel like as an artist, for him, he's just too smart not to have that. That's just my personal opinion. I feel like his music is too intelligent. Like, people won't give this man the credit that he had. They're gonna write him off and try to say that he's a singer or he collaborates with this, that, and third. If you really listen to this motherfucker rap, this motherfucker really knows how to invoke emotion through song. He knows how to do this shit.
I think the ghostwriting thing had really, really, you know, put a crack in his armor. You know, I think that thought is what is hurting him. You know.
Yeah, but I think it's unfair to say, like, okay, you know, a guy has a writing team. You know, at the level that he has to produce these records, you know, you could not tell me that you don't need a team. Like, come on.
But then you look back and say, okay, well, Big, Nas, Jay.
Listen. Let's be honest now.
Here we go.
We're gonna talk about it. Let's talk about this now, right? None of these artists that we mentioned has had the type of chart success that he has had. None.
Yeah.
Let's keep it 100. None of them have had the amount of chart-topping singles and chart success as he has had.
That's absolutely true.
And in the shortest period of time, because he's been out here half of the time that they have been here. Right?
That's true.
If he's had a 10-year run, they've been here for 20 to 30 years.
However, is that because streaming? Because of streaming, there's more access to these records. There's more access to discover these songs. So would that even be a fair comparison?
I mean, it is to a degree, because these guys have music that they released during the streaming era, right? I think the testament is like this. I think when we talk about it, we said it's a we talk about the ghostwriting, but I don't think it's the ghostwriting. I think it's a smart collaboration. Should we take away from the Metro Boomers and the South Sides of the world for what they do because they collaborate? Does that make what they do any less better? That's not even the right phrase to talk about it, but does it make it any worse? Right? Oh, it's not fair because Premier produced everything by himself, and these guys get to collaborate with each other, and to ensure that the shit come out hot. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a very good conversation.
Is that ghostwriting? Like, that's not ghostwriting, that's collaboration. You know what I mean? And I think,
because here you have your hip hop. Well, you're not an MC if you don't write your own, records. But here's something that I think also. Yeah. Okay, whatever. As a consumer, if I'm purchasing music, I want the best experience for my buck.
There you go.
So it's your responsibility as an artist to ensure that I have the best experience. So you need to get into your studio, get with your team. I don't care how you do it, but that end result better be hot as fuck. It better be fire. It better be pushing the culture forward creatively. And if you doing it by yourself to supposedly keep it real is not doing that, then there's a problem.
There you go. And let's be honest. Let's act like there's not this. Let's be honest. Let's not act like there's an infinite well of hits coming out of people, man. Everybody has their highs and their lows, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how could you produce at the level that he's producing it? Like, you had to have collaboration. You know what I'm saying? There's no way to keep your inspiration at that level.
Yeah.
Like, it's just impossible, man. Like, you know that and I know that. It's like, you just, you're not going to be able to do it that long. And it's a testament to the artists who can do it for a long time. But even if we talk about somebody like Nas, like, look at the injection in his arm he got from the young guy, Hit Boy. Let's not act like that the inspiration for the album didn't come from the younger guy.
I mean, even Meek Mill said it himself that he had like writer's block, and he didn't know he had to get with Little Baby and Lil Durk for
to feed off that energy.
To feed off that energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and I don't think for a hot second that anybody is writing Drake rhymes.
Right.
I don't think that you can tell me that anybody's writing Drake rhymes. If you telling me that somebody came in and said, hey, instead of you say it like this, say it like that. Okay, I can buy that.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of you rhyme it like this, sing it with this melody. I can buy that. But I don't think anybody giving that man no balls.
Not now.
I don't believe that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't believe that shit. If you got to listen to that, you got to listen to that shit. That shit is nah, they ain't giving them no balls. If anything, they maybe say, hey, man, like, put this melody on it like that. And we've been in studio sessions where guys are offering, hey, say it like this, say it like that.
Even big artists.
Big artists. Like, come on, man.
Like, yo, what do you think I should do with this line? You think it's this is that?
Come on, man.
Asking for not even always jumping in, but them asking to say, what do you think about this? Oh, that's dope, but nah, do it like that or say it like that.
I dare you all. So let's not act like as if cats is just in there and they're just in this siloed situation and nobody ain't offering no fucking feedback. That shit ain't real.
Yeah, every rapper goes up to the producer and recites the bars in his ear in the studio. Like, yo, how that sound?
How that sound?
You know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying? What you think about that dart? And depending on that's a dart. What you like? What you what you think about that? Or what you think about this? And like, depending on your relationship, then you can give them honest feedback, right? If your relationship ain't good, you got to say, "Damn, it's hot," when you know it ain't. You know, but if your relationship is good and you can have some, you can be candid with some artists, you can tell them, "Nah, that ain't it. Try it again. Do something different."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I think a lot more of that is needed because the end product is what's really important.
And
what you get as a consumer, is what's going to inspire the next artist. Is going to inspire. Okay, what can we do with this? Because music needs to continue to elevate, and if it's not elevating, then we're all just running around in circles, playing a real dumb game.
and I feel you on that, and I feel like also like the artists that have the resources, there's no excuse for mediocre albums. Like there's just no excuse, man. Like just tell me you don't want to spend the fucking money. You know what I'm saying? And you're trying to rob the consumer. I don't want to spend all this money on this budget. I want to pocket the budget. Like don't do this shit. Like that's what kind of bothers me the most. It's like you guys have access to the best production and songwriting in the world. These albums should not sound the way that they sounded.
Yeah, and as a producer, like I should be hearing these records, but like, damn.
Yeah.
Like I should not have to feel like, man, I could do that in my sleep.
Yep.
I should not be feeling like that.
Listen.
It should be inspiring me as a producer to be like, whoa, where did that sound come from? How did he do that? How did he get his kicks and drums to do? Whoa, like, I'm supposed to be inspired. Like, I need to go back and figure that out. And it's not that.
But that's the difference. The difference was that when it used to come out before, it used to be like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I gotta go work. Now this guy, did you hear what that motherfucker did? Like, you know what I mean? Like, did he just put that in there? Like, you know what I'm saying? And this is like,
it was a whole lot more like, oh, he put his snare there. Like, I didn't even think, why is his hi-hats doing that? Why, whoa. Like, it was more, everybody was pushing the needle to come out with the most craziest thing with loops going this way and that way. And now it's being really safe and really mellow. And okay, we're going to do it like this.
Too much safe shit, too much copycat shit.
And I think also a lot of artists don't know how to tackle these beats.
I know. That's part of the other issue. Part of the other issue is that that artists are not used to that. They're too busy now trying to melodicize everything. And I think there's a place for it, but as T-Pain says, do something different. Right?
Yeah.
We have that already.
I agree with him.
Like, do something else. And I felt him because he's like, as a person like himself that innovated something and really owned his own shit. And he did something and he owned it and he was mean with his,
Yeah.
And come on, like, do something that's gonna help to inspire and push people forward. And I think, we may be sounding like the old heads talking like that, but at the same time, we've been here, we've seen it, we've evolved, we've changed, we've made our music different. Like, if you listen to our music from the beginning until you listen to it now, it's like it's the evolution of it. It has pop to it, it has this to it, it has different ranges. Like, depending on who we're working with, you would never know, the differences that we do, so it's just one of those things where I would like to see, like you said, the artists give me the most bang for my buck for this albums. Yeah. Kanye has unlimited resources. Album shouldn't sound the way that it sounds, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? It should be, you know, we should had like Twisted Dark Fantasy times 5 by now. You know what I mean?
We should all be in awe.
Yeah. Like, you know, and I know people will say, well, how the fuck can I keep pushing the envelope? I can't keep outdoing myself. I'm competing with myself.
Well, that's why you get a creative team.
That's why you get the team. You know what I'm saying? That's why, you know, and then also you do the events like you were doing. Like you do the events, you get the live feedback. And, you know, now you have that to add to your repertoire to get the feedback and kind of tweak the album as it goes before it releases. You know, well, we'll see when that thing comes out, if it can add value to the music that did come out. I'm not mad at it. You know, I think the albums are decent. I don't have any real issues with them per se, but you know,
the bar is you need to be better.
Yeah, and I know somebody gonna say I sound crazy for saying this, but you know, the person that I feel that is really challenging himself to make better music every time he comes out might be Tory Lanez.
Okay, yeah. Tory Lanez got some bangers too.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
He seems, you know, and I hate to. I feel as if he is looking at everybody, and he's saying, "I'm better than you, and I'm going to prove it." Not that I'm better than you, and I don't have to. I'm better than you, but I don't have to show why. You know what I'm saying? I'm just better than you. But nah, he keep, and the music keeps getting. I'm like, okay, it's consistent, but it keeps kind of pushing a little forward. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, he got something to prove. And maybe he has a big chip on his shoulder. That's what causes him to do that. Not to say that nobody else is having a chip on their shoulder, but I think again, like you said, like use your resources to put together the best team that you could possibly do. And, you know, maybe we're looking at it wrong. Maybe there's not enough money in it to do all of that. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But this is Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast, folks.
Yep. Thank you for chopping it up and, you know, listening to us today, man. We had a lot of different stories, flashback moments.
a lot of different things going on. Yeah. But, you know, make sure you check us out at www.arkatechbeatz.com. Follow us on all social media at Arkatech Beatz. Facebook would be Arkatech Beatz Online. You know, again, if you like the content, you know, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, and until next time.
Peace.
All right, good.
All right.
Arkatech Beatz.